Okay, so you're never gonna guess where I'm standing right now because I'm using the microphone on the Huawei FreeBuds Pro 4 and I've hidden out my background. But we'll reveal the exact location when we come to microphone tests. So let's do a full review of these earbuds.
Namaste, we're DHRME. We deliberately hoard ridiculously many earphones. Alright, the comfort. They are very much AirPods inspired in terms of their design. They got that stem style shape and the tips are oval. Speaking of those tips, you get two types. You get foam and silicone. You get 3 of the foam and 4 of the silicone, including extra small. So these should be fine if you have small ear holes or different sizes of ear holes. Now, how do they do in terms of fit and comfort? Excellent. They fit in our ear, they stay in place, and they were comfortable to wear for longer periods of time. And with excellent fit and comfort, you obviously want to go out and work out in them, right? Well, with these buds you can. They are IP54 rated. The buds only, guys, not the case, so keep that protected. But that's excellent dust and water resistance.
So Huawei actually is, I think, the only in-ear wireless buds I have seen that have 3 kinds of controls. Usually you just have 2 of either swipe, pinch, or tap. But you get all 3 on the Huawei, which is cool. And that means you can do all the basics for media playback. Unfortunately, not for calls though. We'll talk about that in the call section. But Huawei's controls have always been amazing and they continue on the FreeBuds Pro 4. And for those of you who remember, Huawei did the stroke for volume before the AirPods Pro 2 did. The controls are fine and they do everything you need them to. And there's customization in the app as well. In terms of battery life, you get a USB-C port standard, but also get wireless Qi charging. And the Huawei FreeBuds Pro 4 tease you with a modest promise of 4.5 hours on LDAC with ANC on. But with us, they went for a steamy 5 hours and 28 minutes with LDAC and ANC on. So looks like these buds know how to go all night when the pressure's on. It was a pleasant surprise actually, because 4.5 hours on LDAC sounds bad, but if I'm getting 5 hours plus on the highest res with ANC on, I would say that's par for the course. And given the size, I think that's a pretty good job. Now let's talk about active noise cancelling, because its strength is also kind of its weakness here, because these are really good at low-end sound elimination. They eliminate them almost completely. But the downside is because the low end is so absent, even though the voices and higher end frequencies are kind of brought down, they feel much more clear. So the absence of the low end makes the high end mids a bit more obvious. But still, because of the overall noise suppression, we definitely put this in tier S. Transparency is a slightly different story though, because if you want to hear your outside world with these buds in your ears, it is kind of similar to that experience, not having buds in your ears. However, the quality of the sound that's being piped in is a bit compromised and it sounds a little bit honky. In fact, it's got a similar idea to the Soundcore Liberty 4 Pro. Check out that review up here, but it's maybe a bit more natural sounding. And you also get an option for a voice mode in the app, which focuses on the mids. So overall, I think we'd put this in tier A. It's good to know that the foam tips actually give you better noise suppression and noise cancelling. The silicone tips are also good, but the foam tips is really where it's at with these earbuds.
Now, a little bit about the design. Huawei talks a lot about laser etch design and stuff like that, but you really have to like how it looks.
How do they look? How's the design? Well, first off, these don't look very big in the ear, but I'll have you be the judge of that.
The gold and black accents remind us of the Edifier Stax buds we reviewed not too long ago. The buds have this golden edge and the Huawei text as well as a logo on it, with an interesting brushed metal-like background. In addition to colors, branding, etc., the stems are thicker than the AirPods Pro.
Again, design subjective. One thing that's not subjective is phone calls. Let's go back to the beginning of this video to see where I was.
Okay, so you're never gonna guess where I'm standing right now because I'm using the microphone on the Huawei FreeBuds Pro 4 and I've hidden out my background.
And here are some more samples.
All right, the Huawei FreeBuds Pro 4 in noisy conditions. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, ice, icicle, test, testing, one, two, three. Pop, pop, popsicle, ice, icicle, testing, one, two, three. All right, so we have the Huawei FreeBuds 4. We're going to test it in windy conditions. This is the wind speed in meters per second. Hop, hop, popsicle, ice, icicle, testing, one, two, three. Hop, hop, popsicle, ice, icicle, testing, one, two, three.
Pop, pop, popsicle, icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. Pop, pop, popsicle, icicle, testing, 1, 2, 3. So guys, it's clear. The voice is clear. And it's clear that Huawei is one of the best for phone calls still. I'm not sure. I think these are better than the FreeBuds Pro 3 in that sense, but they were very good in windy and noisy conditions. Guys, the numbers you saw in the windy test, like other earbuds, you can't even hear them like beyond 3, 4, whereas the Huawei was just like very clear in terms of voice. So I'd be very happy using these for phone calls. In fact, these are our number one recommendation for phone calls, the FreeBuds Pro 3 before this and the 4 now. So a total go for calls, but what about Fuckman controls? Well, I think Huawei missed a bit of a trick here, and maybe they can fix it with a firmware update. You can of course change volume, you can answer hang up and switch the ANC mode, but it's a real shame that there's no mute control here on the calls. Since there is that extra option, you have tap and pinch, so I wish I could assign pinch to mute and tap to answer hang up, but Huawei hasn't done that. Anyway, what Huawei has done is you get a nod to answer and reject calls. So there's a sensor that detects if you're nodding or, shaking your head. Nice to know, but what if I shake my head like this? I have no answer for that, do you, Huawei? Let's talk about how these sound, because this is probably my biggest disappointment with these buds, but let me qualify that. These are not disappointing buds for sound. Okay, let's start right at the beginning. First off, these are very difficult to measure because there's a lot of intelligent stuff happening. So the measurements you'll see in this video, and I think in most places, are kind of the measurement of the measurement gear rather than how it would sound in a ear, because this is an adaptive EQ based on 3 things: the volume, so the equal loudness curve, the ear canal structure, and the wearing status. And all this is done in real time. So there is no option I could find in the app to disable any of those. Another thing I couldn't find is the L2HC codec, because this is Huawei's new ad about 2.3 megabits per second or megabytes per second that it can transfer, and you get the best quality audio. Only works with Huawei phones. I don't have one. So I have the next best thing, because these also support another high-res codec, which is LDAC. That is fantastic. I always like earbuds with LDAC because A, I don't need a Snapdragon processor in my phone, and B, it's standard on Android. So I'm very, very happy about that. And you also get AC, of course, for iPhones and other phones that don't support L2HC or LDAC. In terms of hardware, getting 11mm dynamic driver and a planar diaphragm driver for the highs. So for me, it's not the hardware, it's not the codecs, it's not any of that. For me, the real issue here with the Huawei FreeBuds Pro 4 is 2 things. The first thing is the tuning, and here we can compare it with some buds I really enjoy. So they've gone for a bass boosted sound, which I'm fine with. I like bass. In fact, I'm not a flat sound kind of person. But the OnePlus Buds 3, if you see the bass, there is a huge recess when it comes to, let's say, this part on the Huawei FreeBuds Pro 4. And what that means for me is, I thought it would, if you look at this graph and you say, oh, it might actually get rid of muddiness because it's kind of dipping. But in fact, it affected male vocals quite a bit. And I'm in particular thinking of Bake Off by Bloodywood featuring Baby Metal, which I'm really listening to these days. The growls, etc. are quite suppressed. And also, I thought the guitar sounds didn't sound very dynamic. I'm not sure what the technical term is, but when you hit a distorted chord, it kind of rings and kind of almost claws at your ear. I thought they sounded quite smoothed over. Something I also felt with the Technics AZ80. Technics AZ100 review coming soon, so stay subscribed. But Yeah, other than that, I thought it was pretty good. You see, everything else kind of matches the OnePlus Buds 3. So there are two tabs when you go to the app, and one of the tabs is professional. So you see, basic has a bunch of presets, and professional has two presets, which is classical and balanced. I thought, hey, great, balanced. So let's check out what the balanced tuning does for the FreeBuds Pro 4. I'll get rid of the OnePlus and let's do a plus and balanced. And the balanced actually makes it a bit worse even, because you see the base shelf is kind of higher, so it's kind of staying there for a longer period of time, and the mids go even lower, so the mids are even more recessed. I don't know how this is balanced, so that name was very kind of misleading for me, and I actually went through all the presets one by one, and I did not find one that I thought was great. So now I would suggest just use the default tuning, and if you like that, fine. But the good part here is the hardware is excellent and LDAC is good enough. So here's a secret, guys. We always show you these graphs, right? So what you can actually do is you can go to this website where we have our graphs. You can actually hit equalizer on the top left part. You can select a target, Harman for example, and hit auto EQ and download an EQ file for wavelet. Voila, your earbuds are now tuned to a Harman target. I mean, disclaimer, we don't have the most expensive gear to test, so you might not get the most accurate results, but it's a pain-free starting point if you don't like the sound you're getting. And bonus, almost every earbud we review has this EQ setting. So whether you want Bose or Earfun or whatever it is, you can go to our Squeak site, download the Harman Tune target for wavelet, and with some care, it will sound pretty decent. I hope Huawei releases some sort of firmware update or app update which gives us a more kind of Harman-esque sound, or more ability to kind of tune these earbuds to our liking. That's the sound. What about extras? Now you get a ton of Huawei specific features. You have the new L2HC codec, for example, you have proximity pairing, and you have multi-device on Huawei devices. That's more than just regular multi-point. There's no Google Fast Pair. It's all very much like Samsung, but unlike Samsung, you do get regular multi-point with a device list in the Huawei AI Life app. That's really sweet. And of course, you get an in-ear sensor, which is now par for the course at this price. So that was the extras. You get what else? Yeah, we talked about the phone tips, the silicone tips. It's a nice box. I mean, there's not much more to say. Whether you should buy this, that's a very interesting question, because these cost 199 euros in the Netherlands. And of course, the availability of this is a bit limited, especially in the US and I think in India as well. So the competition is really strong at this price point. Okay, there are $99 buds out there, guys, that are bringing some serious value. But again, if you're just looking at this in isolation, these don't do many things wrong. They're very nice size, very pocketable, very comfortable, good grip, good IP rating, passable battery life, can sound very good, and top tier microphones. So they tick a lot of boxes for audiophiles and non-audiophiles alike. Should you buy them? I would say at this price, at $199, if you really want those phone calls, that's the one thing these really stand out in, and they have nothing really wrong with them other than that. If that's not the only thing you're looking for, there are much cheaper priced products out there. We'll link some videos we've done comparing many of those earbuds down below. But Kevin, you wanted to say something?
Now, quick disclosure before you guys head out. These buds were sent out to us by Huawei, but this is an independent review. As you know, we pull no punches here on the channel, and the reason we're able to do that is thanks to you guys, our subscribers, but an even bigger thanks to our patrons and members who support us financially. We have 4 tiers, so if you guys want to get in on the action, check out the link in the description. 4 tiers, like I said, you got Popsicle, Icicle, and these lovely tested folks, and our very special thanks goes out to our Fuckman tier, the highest tier. So a big thanks to Rachel, Gamma Panda, and Paula. Thank you guys extra much. You've been feeling free with these buds fit for a pro, and we've been DHRME. Doei!